They didn't lose a person. They lost the alignment keeping their world from collapsing. You weren't just a blessing. They were borrowing protection from the universe, and now the lease is up. That's the truth they're choking on right now. You were the safety net their chaos leaned on, the divine interruption in their dysfunction. And when they thought they could disrespect the energy you carried, when they mocked the calm you brought to their storm, the universe did what it always does with the ungrateful. It pulled its presence back. And now they're spiraling, not because you're gone, but because what replaced you is eating them alive. You were the answer, and they chose the affliction. You were the upgrade, and they downloaded a virus. You were the rarest of frequencies, and they exchanged you for noise. Before we go deeper, pause for a second. If you're already feeling this message hit places no apology ever reached, do what the system fears. React. Like this video. Subscribe. Comment below. Because every time one of us finds this message, it sends a signal to the algorithm. Another chosen one woke up. And when enough of us rise, the whole frequency shifts. This isn't just content. It's a call to alignment. So don't just scroll. Spread the signal. Let's talk, chosen one. And let's be clear from the start. This was never about ego. It was always about energy. You didn't walk in rooms to impress. You walked in carrying something ancient, something powerful, something undeniable. The room didn't change because of your looks or your words. It changed because of what walked in with you. The universe doesn't send its chosen casually. You were assigned a living interruption, a mirror, a wake-up call. But they didn't want the truth. They wanted comfort. So when you arrived with healing, they rejected it like poison, because healing means facing the wound. And they weren't ready for that. What they don't understand is this. Being chosen isn't a title. It's a weight. It's carrying clarity in rooms built on confusion. It's walking with light in places addicted to shadows. It's being the frequency that breaks generational noise. And that presence, it haunts people who've spent their lives performing. Your authenticity reveals their act. Your stillness exposes their chaos. Your very existence forces people to see the truth they've spent years running from. That's why they turned on you. That's why they twisted your silence into arrogance, your peace into pride. Because people who hate their own reflection will always try to shatter the mirror. And still, you wonder if you were the problem. Still, you doubt your worth. Still, you let their confusion creep into your clarity. Listen to me. Stop mourning what the universe has already judged unfit to keep you. You didn't just leave, you were extracted. That was the universe protecting what belongs to it. They weren't fighting you. They were fighting the energy behind you, the force that sent you, the alignment you carried. And now, that force is gone from their space. That protection has lifted. That frequency is no longer available on demand. And what they're left with is exactly what they chose. A curse in place of a blessing. An echo where there used to be presence. So don't you dare shrink. Don't you dare apologize for being the storm breaker, the balance bringer, the presence that shifted everything. You were never the problem. You were the grace. And now that grace is gone. Let them feel it. Because they thought they could play with the gift the universe sent to heal them. And now they're dancing with the very curse they called in. Let them choke on the silence. You were the blessing. And now they're bleeding from the absence of what they thought they could replace. So if this message is already tapping something ancient in your spirit, don't scroll past it. Drop the number 77 in the comments. if you know you weren't just a presence in their life, you were protection. Because when the universe places you somewhere, it's not for decoration, it's for disruption. And when that divine disruption gets dismissed, consequences follow. Your reaction doesn't just help the message, it helps the algorithm recognize that another chosen one just activated. And when chosen ones rise together, the shift becomes undeniable. So engage, spread this frequency, and let the universe keep moving through us. And now, let's step fully into it, layer by layer, truth by truth. Because if you're truly chosen, you'll feel it, that magnetic pull to stay until the final word. This isn't just something to watch, this is something to remember. Let's begin. Number 1. They wanted the glow, but mocked the flame. They danced in your light, then cursed you when it started burning through their illusions. They wanted what you carried, but not what it cost. They wanted the warmth, the glow, the guidance. But when your fire started revealing the rot in their walls, the cracks in their mask, and the truth behind their performances, suddenly you became too much. They didn't mind basking in your shine when it kept them comfortable, but the moment your fire demanded transformation, they turned. Because here's the truth most people can't stomach. Real light doesn't just illuminate, it exposes. And exposure, that terrifies the ones hiding in delusion. They didn't love you, they loved what you made them feel like. The calm you brought to their chaos, the clarity that followed when you spoke, the power of your presence that made them feel seen, even when they didn't deserve it. But love without respect is just entitlement. And when they realized your light wasn't for sale, when they couldn't contain it or control it, they started scorning the very flame they once worshipped. They mocked the heat, called you arrogant, called you sensitive, called you dramatic. But here's what they were really saying. Your truth makes my lies too uncomfortable to live with. You ever wonder why they laughed at you when you were being sincere? Why they rolled their eyes when you brought wisdom, or went quiet when you showed up in your full power? That wasn't disinterest. That was fear. Because chosen ones don't just walk into a room, they shift it. You weren't made to blend in. You were made to interrupt. And the people you were sent to help, most of them weren't ready. Because help, real help, doesn't always feel soft. Sometimes it comes wrapped in fire. Sometimes it demands people to burn the identity they built on survival. And survival doesn't let go easily. You were never just the good friend, the kind lover, the wise one. You were the flame, and flames don't apologize for burning, but you toned it down, didn't you? You started dimming, shrinking, questioning. They gaslit you into thinking you were the problem for being too intense, too passionate, too awake. But let's be real. They weren't uncomfortable with your fire because it was dangerous. They were uncomfortable because it revealed how cold they really were. The glow they wanted, that was your spirit, your alignment, your insight. But they wanted to take it without ever matching it. And now they're stumbling in the dark. Because the flame they mocked isn't there to guide them anymore. They feel it, whether they admit it or not. The room's colder, the energy's heavier, the inspiration is gone. Because what they failed to realize is this: you weren't just a light, they were surviving off your flame. You want proof? Look at the lives of every chosen one who was underestimated. Think of people like Maya Angelou, who was silenced as a child, only to grow into a voice that moved generations. Think of Nikola Tesla, called mad by the very world that now runs on his vision. Or Frida Kahlo, shamed for her pain and intensity, yet became an eternal symbol of raw truth. The world mocks what it doesn't understand until it starts needing it. And you're just another chapter in that pattern. But make no mistake, you are the pattern breaker. And maybe you're still asking yourself, why did they turn on me? Why couldn't they just accept me as I am? It's because they couldn't afford to. Not spiritually, not energetically. See, your presence made their mediocrity louder. Your growth exposed their stagnation. You became a mirror, and the reflection scared them. It's easier to call the light too bright than to admit you've been living in shadows. It's easier to make the flame the villain than to face the fact that your own life lacks heat. Let me say this clearly. You were not the problem. You were the catalyst. They prayed for clarity, and the universe sent you. They asked for healing, and the universe sent you. But they didn't like the form you came in, because you didn't come as entertainment. You didn't come to enable. You came to wake them the hell up. And when they couldn't handle the alarm clock, they tried to smash it. But what they broke wasn't you. It was access to you. You still burn. You still shine. You still move like a storm wrapped in purpose. The only difference is, your fire's no longer warming the ungrateful. It's fueling your rise. And now that you've pulled back, they're out in the cold, searching for a heat they can't recreate. Because your energy wasn't just fire, it was sacred. And sacred things can't be replaced with convenience. Let that be motivation. Let their betrayal become your clarity. Because the truth is, chosen ones carry the kind of energy that haunts people when it's gone. Your silence is now screaming louder than your presence ever did. That echo in their life. That's your absence bouncing off the empty spaces they used to fill with your glow. They thought they were just walking away from a person. They were walking away from divine protection, from energetic balance, from a soul the universe itself trusted to bring order into chaos. And now, they're trying to strike matches in a storm, but it's too late. So don't you dare dim. Don't you dare look back and wonder if you should have burned less brightly just to make them comfortable. You were never meant to be a candle in their cave. You were meant to set the whole room ablaze with truth. And if they couldn't take the heat, then let them freeze in the consequences. That's not cruelty. That's universal balance. Because when people mock the flame, they forget that darkness is never loyal. It returns the moment the light leaves. And now they know what you were. You were the glow that held it all together. You were the fire they never respected. You were the blessing. And now they're burning in the curse they chose. Number 2. They weren't fighting you, they were wrestling the universe. Let's get something straight right now. Chosen one, they were never really at war with you. They were at war with what you represented, with the timing you arrived, with the shift you brought, with the truth your presence demanded. See, you didn't just enter their life by chance. You were placed, planted, positioned. You were the universe's response to years of chaos, ego, and stagnation. But they couldn't recognize the assignment because they were too busy trying to silence the alarm. You weren't the enemy. You were the mirror. You didn't say anything they didn't already know deep down, but your energy amplified what they were trying to ignore. That's the danger of being chosen. You walk into people's lives and the atmosphere starts rearranging itself. What was hidden begins to surface. The lies they tell themselves start to crack under your frequency, and they panic. Because people don't fear you, they fear what they can't control. And you, chosen one, were never meant to be controlled. They called it conflict, but what it really was conviction. You didn't raise your voice. You didn't come to tear them down. You simply existed with clarity, with presence, with purpose, and that was threatening enough. Because when someone is out of alignment, the presence of someone who is feels like exposure. So what did they do? They twisted your words. They questioned your intentions. They tried to make you doubt yourself, because if they could make you forget your power, maybe they wouldn't have to face their own weakness. That's how it always goes, right? The messenger gets crucified, so the message doesn't have to be heard. But let's really talk about what was going on. You were sent to elevate them. Maybe not forever, maybe not even intentionally, but your presence was an invitation to rise, and instead of rising, they chose to resist. Because elevation requires accountability. And accountability requires a level of honesty most people just aren't willing to sit in. So instead of looking in the mirror you held up, they tried to break it. But what they broke wasn't glass. It was grace. What they shattered wasn't your spirit. It was the access the universe gave them through you. That access is gone now. And guess what? So is the protection that came with it. You were a covering, even if you didn't realize it. Your love was armor. Your presence was a shield. Your energy kept certain storms at bay, not because you were trying to be a savior, but because chosen ones carry a frequency that repels chaos. That's why everything seemed to work when you were around. That's why things felt lighter, smoother, more aligned. You weren't just helping them, you were holding their whole energetic system together. And the moment they made you the enemy, the universe stepped back too. Now they're left in the same cycles you were sent to help break, still fighting the same battles, still haunted by the same demons, because you weren't the problem. You were the opportunity, the divine opening, the last lifeline. And now, they're not just dealing with the fallout of hurting you, they're dealing with the karma of rejecting what the universe sent to heal them. And to you, chosen one, stop asking yourself if you were too much. Stop replaying the moment they flipped the story on you. You didn't do anything wrong. You just stopped dimming your light to help someone feel safe in their shadows. That's not betrayal. That's self-respect. And if they saw that as war, let them fight the silence. Let them wrestle with the aftermath. Because they didn't just resist you, they resisted their own evolution. You were the message, the shift, the sign they kept asking for, the proof they could have done better. But they didn't want better, they wanted easier. And the universe doesn't reward cowardice. So now they sit in the space where your guidance used to flow. And the silence? It's a sentence, because the message didn't disappear. It just moved on. You just moved on. And the weight they feel now isn't your absence. It's the result of ignoring the wake-up call. So walk with your head high. You didn't lose them. They lost alignment. You didn't get pushed out. The universe pulled you out before their chaos contaminated your calling. They weren't strong enough to grow with you. And now, they're left wrestling the same truth they ran from. Only this time, you're no longer standing in the way. They thought they were pushing back against you. But what they didn't know was that the universe fights back harder. You weren't the target. You were the test, and they failed. Number 3. Stop thinking you were alone. The universe walked with you. Let's kill that lie now, the one whispering to you at night, asking why no one stood up for you, why nobody saw what you gave, why they let you break in silence. Let's kill the illusion that you were rejected, discarded, or forgotten. Because chosen ones don't get abandoned. They get positioned. You weren't cast aside. You were called aside. And there's a difference. See? You've been thinking you were alone in that dark season. But what if I told you that your isolation wasn't punishment, it was preservation? That the silence wasn't abandonment, it was alignment? That every closed door, every betrayal, every delay wasn't the universe ignoring you. It was the universe escorting you out of places your spirit had already outgrown. You weren't left. You were led. You were assigned to that chapter of solitude because your environment was never designed to evolve with your energy. It was too small, too loud, too fake. The people around you weren't built to go where you're going, and the universe knew it. That's why the calls stopped. That's why the room shifted. That's why you started feeling like a stranger in your own circle. Because when the frequency changes, comfort turns into chaos. That's the first sign your assignment is changing. And I get it. You felt invisible. You gave your all. You showed up when it cost you your peace. You poured into people who had holes in their spirit and expected you to keep refilling them. And when you finally hit empty, they disappeared. But listen close. They didn't walk away from you. They were removed from you. Because the universe saw what they were doing behind your back. The universe heard the conversations you never did. The universe watched the energy shift in their eyes the moment you stopped serving their ego. You thought you were being overlooked, but in reality, you were being overprotected. You were being pulled into isolation, not because you were weak, but because you were sacred. Your power was being recalibrated. Your vision was being fine-tuned. And when you're chosen, the universe will wreck your routine to save your soul. It will break your heart to expose hidden motives. It will shut every door that makes you question your worth, until you realize you were the blessing all along. Stop looking around, wondering why no one clapped for you when you were rising. Stop expecting the people who benefited from your silence to understand your roar. You weren't meant to be understood by those you were sent to shift. You were the earthquake. Of course, they felt unstable around you. You were the real thing in a room full of masks. And that kind of energy, it doesn't get applause, it gets attacked. But just because they didn't support you doesn't mean you were unsupported. You want proof you weren't alone. You're still here, after the breakdowns, after the betrayal, after the silence that almost swallowed you whole. You're still standing, still evolving, still glowing. And that's not just survival, that's divine evidence. Because when the universe is backing you, you can be surrounded by enemies and still be untouched. You can be in the middle of a storm and still walk out with peace. You can be left by people, but never left by purpose. Chosen one, you weren't walking alone. You were walking protected, guided, covered. Every delay, redirection. Every loss, redesign. Every time you thought, this is the end, it was actually the universe saying, this is the beginning, but I have to clear the room first. Your exit wasn't emotional, it was orchestration, a calculated removal. You were extracted like royalty being pulled out of a sinking ship, while you were still trying to save people who were drilling more holes in the floor. You are not crazy for feeling like your spirit was suffocating. You were surrounded by energy that didn't respect your essence. And when the universe saw that they wouldn't change, it changed your scenery instead. That's protection. That's love in motion. That's the universe doing what you couldn't, letting go for you. So stop mourning the rooms you were never meant to stay in. Stop replaying the moments when they failed to love you correctly. That wasn't abandonment. That was spiritual surgery. And now that you're healing, now that the fog is lifting, now that you're remembering who you are, you can finally see what's always been true. You were never alone. You were being prepared. And now you walk with clarity, not crowds, with alignment, not attachments, with purpose, not permission. You weren't abandoned. You were assigned. And the mission? It's just beginning. Number 4. They called you intense, but it was just truth at full volume. Let's go ahead and tear off the labels they stuck on you to make themselves feel more comfortable in their shallow waters. Too intense, too serious, too emotional. Sound familiar? That's what they say when they come face to face with something they can't fake, control, or understand. But the truth? You weren't too much. They were too empty. You showed up with depth in a world addicted to surface. You brought clarity to conversations designed to dodge accountability. You were real, too real, in spaces built on performance. And that's why they labeled you, because when people are committed to pretending, your presence becomes a threat. You weren't loud, you weren't dramatic. You were just operating in truth at a frequency they couldn't sustain. See, people who live behind masks will always resent the one who walks in authenticity. You weren't putting on a show. You weren't adjusting your tone to make others comfortable. You spoke from your soul. You questioned what didn't feel right. You looked through facades like glass, and that made them uneasy, because it forced them to confront everything they were hiding, even from themselves. You weren't too emotional. You were emotionally honest. There's a difference. You weren't too serious. You just weren't interested in small talk when spiritual warfare was going on behind the scenes. You weren't too deep. You were just awake in a space full of people sleepwalking through their own cycles. And now they're searching for someone who brings what you brought. That presence, that intensity, that unchanging authenticity. But they won't find it, because what they labeled too much was actually the standard. You didn't bring chaos. You brought clarity. You didn't bring drama. You brought depth. But they couldn't receive it because they were used to people performing, not transforming. Let's be real. They weren't used to people like you. They were used to diluted connections, people who avoided confrontation, people who said what sounded good instead of what was real. So when you walked in with no filter, with energy that cut through the fog, with questions that made them uncomfortable, they panicked. You didn't fit the script. You were never playing a role. You were the truth in real time, and that was too heavy for them to carry. But let me remind you of something, chosen one, that intensity, that fire. It's not a flaw, it's your frequency. You were wired to go deep. You were built to feel what others ignore, to speak what others sugarcoat, to see what others pretend doesn't exist. That's not a weakness. That's a weapon. And they feared it, because it revealed them. Your truth exposed their lies. Your energy exposed their stagnation. Your vision exposed how blurry theirs had become. And instead of rising with you, they tried to reduce you. Instead of being inspired, they tried to dim your flame. Because when you carry purpose, people who live passively will always feel attacked. But here's what's wild. Now they miss it. They miss your honesty, your presence, the fire you brought into every room, every conversation, every connection. They're craving the very intensity they once mocked. Why? Because they've tasted real now, and nothing fake satisfies after that. They're surrounded by people who nod, smile, agree, and it all feels hollow, empty, performative, because you were the only one who brought truth with weight. You didn't just say things, you shifted energy. You didn't just exist, you activated something. And that kind of presence, it doesn't show up every day. It doesn't live in shallow spaces, and it never apologizes for being too loud for the lies people are living in. So let them sit in the quiet now. Let them stew in the shallowness they chose over your truth. Because when someone chooses comfort over growth, ease over evolution, performance over presence, they lose access to the rarest frequency this world has to offer, a chosen one fully aligned with their fire. You were never too much. You were just too awake for the sleepwalkers. You were never too deep. You were just too real for the illusion. You were never too emotional. You were just too connected to your own soul. And now that you've stopped explaining yourself, stopped softening your light, stopped translating your intensity into something palatable, they're starting to feel the difference. Because no matter what they called you, deep down they knew you weren't the one pretending. So keep burning, keep speaking, keep moving with full volume. Your intensity was never the problem, it was the proof. You weren't too much. You were the standard they couldn't meet. Number 5. They traded alignment for aesthetics, and now it's crumbling. Let's not sugarcoat it. They made a choice. They saw the real thing standing right in front of them. Depth, alignment, connection, truth, and they chose the distraction. They picked packaging over presence, performance over purpose. You were the full meal, cooked in integrity and soul, and they turned you down for fast food, dressed in filters and fake smiles. Why? Because real requires responsibility, and they weren't ready to meet you at your level. You didn't just bring good looks or charm, you brought alignment. You were the walking embodiment of clarity, of healing, of growth. You challenged them to become more, to feel deeper, to evolve. And instead of rising to meet that energy, they ran to the nearest distraction that was easier to digest. Something light, easy, temporary, something they could show off but never grow with. And now, everything they built on that sparkle is falling apart. Because you don't build a future on aesthetics. You don't find peace in something that was never rooted in soul. You can't sustain a connection built on convenience and ego stroking. And the universe doesn't bless what's out of alignment, no matter how good it looks on the outside. See, they thought you were optional, that they could find another you, that your value could be replicated by someone flashier, someone who smiled more and questioned less. But what they didn't realize is that you weren't the flash. You were the foundation. You were the one who brought clarity when their vision was foggy. You were the one who spoke truth when everyone else told them what they wanted to hear. You were the one holding it all together energetically, emotionally, spiritually. And now that you're gone, they feel it everywhere. Because here's what most people don't get. Alignment isn't loud. It doesn't beg to be chosen. It doesn't perform. It is. And when people trade that for aesthetics, they're not just making a bad decision, they're inviting collapse. Look at the mess they're sitting in now. The shallow relationships, the chaos that keeps cycling, the emptiness that lingers, even when everything looks perfect on the outside. Because the sparkle they picked, it had no substance. It couldn't hold space. It couldn't challenge them. It couldn't bring peace. It could only pretend. They traded a lighthouse for a flickering neon sign, and now they're lost at sea, wondering why nothing feels solid anymore. But let's be honest, part of you saw it coming, didn't you? You saw how they started chasing validation instead of growth. You saw how your depth made them uncomfortable, how your energy required them to level up. And the more you stayed in alignment, the more they drifted toward the artificial. Not because you changed, but because your light made their mask harder to wear. So they reached for something easier. And now, they're surrounded by aesthetics, but haunted by the absence of alignment, because sparkle fades, charm wears thin, and when life starts shaking, and it always does, only substance remains standing. Let this be your confirmation, chosen one. You were never lacking. You were overflowing. But you were trying to pour into someone who was only thirsty for attention, not growth. You showed up as the upgrade, and they chose the shortcut. And the universe? It saw it all. That's why you've been pulled away. That's why you're rising now. Because people who trade alignment for aesthetics always lose more than they realize. They don't just lose the person. They lose the path. They gave up the rarest thing on earth, someone real, for a temporary thrill. And the irony, now they're craving what they once called boring, too deep, or not exciting enough. Because after the performance ends, after the lights go down, after the sparkle wears off, what's left is the truth. And the truth is, you were the gift, the anchor, the awakening. And now, without that alignment holding them steady, they're spiraling, chasing dopamine, faking happiness, searching for connection in spaces that only offer illusion. That's the cost of choosing style over spirit. So walk with peace, walk with your head up, not because they're losing, but because you finally see what they missed. You weren't rejected, you were released. Because where you're going, only alignment survives. They chose the sparkle. And now they're drowning in glitter, still starving for substance. Let it crumble. Number 6. They drank from the well, then spit in it. You gave without asking, showed up without being begged, listened when no one else would. You were the calm in the chaos, the voice of reason in their storms, the sacred space where they could collapse without being judged. You were the well. And they didn't just drink from it, they depended on it. But when it came time to respect it, protect it, or pour back into it, they spit in it like it owed them everything. Chosen one, let's call this what it is, spiritual entitlement. They thought your grace was their right. They assumed your wisdom was theirs to access on demand. They pulled from your peace like it was a bottomless reservoir. But not once did they stop and ask, how are you holding up? Not once did they consider that even the strongest souls need pouring into too. Because in their mind, you were a resource, not a person, a tool, not a temple. And when you stopped giving, suddenly you were distant, different, cold. No, you were dry. You poured past your limit. You gave through exhaustion. You made their healing your mission, their comfort your responsibility, their chaos your burden. And they didn't just overlook it, they expected it. But what they forgot is that even wells run dry when they're neglected. Even divine sources shut down when they're disrespected. You were never weak. You were never disposable. You were overflowing, and they took it for granted. Now look at them. The well is gone. The source has been cut off, and they're wandering a desert of their own creation, dehydrated, desperate, spiritually dizzy, because they mocked the hand that held them steady. And let's be honest, they didn't just spit in the well. They spit on you, your efforts, your boundaries, your silence. They mistook your stillness for passivity, your kindness for compliance, your forgiveness for forgetfulness. But what they forgot is that the universe protects what it places, and it doesn't tolerate abuse of the chosen. That's why you were pulled out. You didn't just walk away. You were removed, disconnected, extracted, because the universe saw you bleeding out in silence. It saw you dying in the desert while they drank from your soul like it was some unearned privilege. So the divine stepped in, not to punish them, but to protect you. And now they're learning what happens when you burn bridges with a source the universe assigned to their growth. It's not karma, it's correction. And you were the grace, the lesson, the example. But they treated you like a backup plan. They assumed you'd always be there, that you'd keep showing up with refills, even when your spirit was starving. And they didn't realize your love was rare. Your peace was rare. Your presence was sacred. They were so busy enjoying the water, they never stopped to honor the well. And now, every shallow conversation feels meaningless. Every substitute feels hollow. Every loud room echoes with your absence. Because you weren't just giving water, you were bringing life. And when life exits a space, all that's left is decay. So stop questioning whether you were too sensitive or too giving. You weren't wrong for pouring. You were just surrounded by people who didn't know how to drink with gratitude. They were addicted to being filled, but allergic to accountability. They thought access meant ownership. But chosen ones don't get owned. We overflow where we're honored. Let them thirst now. Let them sit in the dryness of their own choices. Let them taste what it feels like to live without the presence they once mistook for nothing. That ache they feel, that void, that tension, that's the absence of alignment. That's what it feels like when divine access is revoked. And you're not bitter. You're just done bleeding for people who only showed up with empty cups and full mouths. Because from this point on, your water is for the worthy. Your peace is for the aligned. Your energy is for those who see you, not just those who need you. You were the well. They drank. They disrespected it. And now they're dehydrated in the desert they created. Let them feel it. Let them thirst. Let them learn. Because your grace was never meant to be wasted. Number 7. You didn't walk out. The universe pulled you out. Let's stop pretending like you walked away because it was easy. You didn't slam a door and smile. You didn't pack your bags out of pride. You didn't cut them off because you wanted revenge. You left because the universe gave you no other option. You were holding on to what was breaking you. You were watering dead things out of love, hoping they'd bloom again. You kept trying to explain your heart to people who were committed to misunderstanding it. And still, you stayed. Stayed longer than you should have. Gave more than they deserved. Excused behavior you would have never accepted if it wasn't for how deeply you felt connected. And that's where the danger came in. You were loyal to dysfunction. Not because you were weak, but because your heart is wired to see potential, to hold space, to heal, to wait. You kept trying to fix what the universe was trying to free you from. And eventually, the universe had to step in and do what you wouldn't. So it started shaking things. You felt it, didn't you? The tension, the misalignment, the heaviness in your spirit every time you walked into certain rooms, sat in certain conversations, or tried to force connections that were clearly out of season. That wasn't anxiety. That was spiritual warning. The divine tugging on your soul, whispering, "You're not supposed to be here anymore." But you didn't listen. Not at first. Because chosen ones don't just walk away from people. They carry them. You held on, hoping they'd change. Hoping love would be enough. Hoping they'd finally see your worth without you having to explain it again. But here's the hard truth. They saw it. They just didn't respect it. And the universe saw you drowning in your own loyalty. So it did what love does. It evacuated you, not out of anger, but out of mercy. Because if you had stayed any longer, you would have lost yourself trying to keep what was already falling apart. So things started breaking. Conversations turned. Patterns repeated. The mask slipped. And suddenly, the pain was undeniable. What you tried to pray through became unbearable. And what you once protected became the reason you were breaking. That wasn't coincidence. That was orchestration. You didn't just leave. You were lifted, pulled out of a storm you kept calling a phase, escorted out of an environment your spirit no longer fit into. And now that you're outside of it, now that you can breathe again, you're seeing the truth for what it always was. You were never safe there. You were stuck. And no amount of love, effort, or explanation could fix something the universe had already labeled expired. So stop blaming yourself. Stop wondering if you could have done more. Stop replaying the moment you left like it was a betrayal. It wasn't. It was a rescue. The universe knew your heart was too pure, your spirit too loyal, your hope too alive to abandon people, even when they were draining you. So it gave you no choice. It shut the doors. It turned the volume up on the discomfort. It let the mask fall so violently that you had to walk. Because chosen ones don't leave out of bitterness. They leave out of awakening. And now they're calling you selfish, cold, changed. But let them. Because what they call abandonment was actually your survival. What they call distance is actually divine redirection. They don't get to label the exit when they ignored every signal that led to it. Let this be your confirmation. You didn't walk away, you were pulled away. Because your spirit outgrew the space. Your evolution disrupted the cycle. Your clarity broke the illusion. You were a soul on assignment. And once your purpose in that space was complete, the exit wasn't a decision. It was a deliverance. So honor it, even if it hurt. Even if they never apologized. Even if you never got closure. Because sometimes the universe doesn't give you closure. It gives you freedom. And chosen one, that's exactly what this was. You didn't fail. You didn't give up. You finally got free. You didn't walk out. You were evacuated. And that's not weakness. That's divine protection in motion. Number 8. You forgot you were the blessing. That's why you hurt so long. Let's call it what it is. You stayed too long, gave too much, tried too hard to be understood by people who were committed to never seeing you clearly. And deep down, you knew it. You felt it. The tension in your chest, the heaviness in your gut, the voice inside you that whispered, "This isn't it." But you kept ignoring it. You kept hoping, kept adjusting, kept believing that if you just explained a little more, gave a little extra, softened just enough, they'd get it. They'd finally realize who you were. They'd finally see your value. But here's the reality. They saw it. They just didn't respect it. You didn't stay because you were weak. You stayed because you're wired to believe in people. You're built to see potential, to find the good, to hold on when others let go. And that's not a flaw, it's a strength. But even strengths can become cages when you use them in the wrong places. You forgot that not everyone deserves access to the best parts of you. And the longer you stayed trying to earn your place, the more it chipped away at your confidence. That's why it hurt so long. Not because you weren't enough, but because you were trying to fit into places that weren't meant for you anymore. You were trying to shrink yourself into roles that didn't match your growth. You were trying to stay quiet in rooms where your voice was supposed to shake the walls. You kept reaching for people who had already let go, kept trying to fix what was never your job to hold together, and you ignored the signs until the discomfort was too loud to pretend anymore. The truth is, you didn't lose anything by walking away. What you lost was the illusion that you had to earn love, loyalty, or respect by overextending yourself. The ache you felt, that was your signal. That wasn't punishment. It was pressure. Pressure that builds up when your life starts pushing you in a new direction, but you keep clinging to what's familiar. Pressure from ignoring your own needs just to keep other people comfortable. Pressure from betraying your own peace just to maintain connections that were already expired. And the moment you let go, even if it hurt, it finally made sense. You didn't need to work so hard to be seen. You didn't need to perform. You didn't need to overgive just to earn half-hearted love. Because the truth is, you were the asset the whole time. You were the clarity, the consistency, the presence that held it all together, even when no one said thank you. You were the reason they felt safe. You were the one who showed up without conditions. You were the one who offered stability while they brought excuses. You were the real thing in a space full of pretense. But when you're surrounded by people who only see you for what you give, not who you are, it's easy to forget your own power. It's easy to start believing that you're only valuable when you're needed. So you kept pouring, hoping that one day they'd pour back. And when they didn't, you blamed yourself. But let's be clear, they didn't fail to love you because you weren't lovable. They failed because they never learned how to receive something real without trying to control it. That's not your fault. That's their limitation. And it's not your job to shrink yourself to match it. So if you're still sitting in the aftermath, questioning whether you were too much, hear this. You were never too much. You were exactly what they weren't ready for. You didn't stay because you didn't know your worth. You stayed because you thought they'd catch up to it. But now you see it clearly. You outgrew the room, and your pain was the reminder. The pain wasn't punishment. It was pressure. It was your wake-up call. So stop apologizing for what you had to walk away from. Stop mourning people who didn't know how to treat you. Stop replaying scenarios where you had to make yourself smaller just to stay connected. You forgot you were the blessing. Now you remember. And next time, you won't beg to be kept. You won't explain your worth. You'll walk in knowing it. And that version of you, unstoppable. And now, as everything comes into focus, let this be your final reminder. You were never the extra. You were the essence. The reason the room felt right. The glue, the anchor, the shift. And now that you've reclaimed that truth, there's no going back. No more shrinking. No more over-explaining. From here on, you move different because you remember who you are. If this message hit where apologies never did, make it known. Like this video, subscribe to stay connected to this energy. Drop the number 77 in the comments if you're walking in your worth now. And share this with another one who forgot they were the blessing.